All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Open up with a word of prayer. Go ahead and start. Dear Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you for the time we're going to have together tonight. And ask you to protect Pastor Jan and Ken as they're down in Georgia with Dr. Dollar's conference. And we think the word will come forth and it will pierce their mind, soul, and body tonight. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. What I'm going to do is do a kind of a continuation of where we left off in the past here, probably, 2 months ago, and go in a little bit more detail about some things. I have a new book here that I want to share with everyone. I don't know if anyone has seen this here by Tony Robbins, Money, Master of the Game. Has anyone seen this? I'll tell you right now, this is probably the best book I've ever read. I've learned a whole bunch in the last 2 weeks reading this thing, and it blew me away with ideas that I had a general idea on, but I didn't realize how much. And tonight we're going to talk about a couple things in the book and some ideas that Tony talked about. But to give you a little background on the book, why it's so important, Tony was concerned with what's going on with people not having money, excuse me, and how lack of retirement that people have today. So what he did is he set out a goal and he spent quite a bit of time. He interviewed the top 50 wealthiest hedge fund managers, the guy that owns Vanguard funds, Charles Schwab. These are the people that he interviewed when he wrote this book, and he got all of their secrets on how to build wealth. Because I know a lot of you have said, what do I do? How do I do this? I know Pat's asked different people, what should I do? If you read this book, this is a roadmap to everything you've been asking for and how to do it. But we're going to talk a little bit about taxes and insurance tonight that he talks about in there, but Sunday is really going to be the real shocker that you see. I'm going to give you some tidbits tonight, but Sunday we're going to cover a lot more. But on our 401ks, how many people have a 401k at work? Somewhere. Do you know what you pay in fees and costs with it? Tony Robbins, he has one of the top money managers in the world managing his money. He had no idea in a 401k. What I'm going to share with you can take back to your employers because it means millions and millions of additional dollars for your retirement. And with employers, and there's a new law that was passed in November that the employer actually has a fiduciary responsibility to make sure you're not paying excess fees on your 401k. Most of them don't even know about it. I'm going to share some of that on Sunday too, but I want to talk a little bit here and how this ties in a little bit with a couple scriptures that I think when I was looking today. This was out of Faith to Faith. This is, let the word of God inspire you to leave foolishness behind and stir within you the faith to reach out and receive what you've redeemed. That you redeemed as a child of the living God. Have a divine right not to of a curse of a poverty, but the blessings of prosperity. And it came to mind when I was kind of reading this, Romans 13:7. You know, we talk about taxes a lot, you know, and how we have to pay taxes. And the word says, pay to all what is due. Tax to whom is due, customs to whom customs are due, respect and honor. And then it talks about in Proverbs 13:22, and this is where it's going to come in over the next day and what we've been talking about the last few months. A good person leaves an inheritance to their children's children. The problem is we've been robbed tremendously, and our children have been robbed because we're destroyed for lack of knowledge. What I'm going to share tonight is going to enlighten you a little bit, but Sunday's really going to put it together when we're done with everything. So, and then Isaiah 48:17 too is another scripture that came to mind when I was looking at this. It says, I am the Lord your God who teaches you to profit, benefit, who leads you in the way that you should go. That was the Amplified version. And so was Amplified for Romans 13:7. But some of the things I want to talk about is tonight we're going to focus on taxes and insurance. How many people have life insurance? Do you know how it functions, the different types of life insurance? A lot of people really don't understand all the benefits of what it can be used for. This is a program I've seen for a while when I used to teach years ago and go around teaching, doing seminars. A lot of this information is in there, but it's just a little short 6-minute video. It's kind of like a cartoon style. It kind of explain a little bit of some benefits you can use for your insurance policy. So Go ahead and play that video if you would, please.
How to become your own source of financing and tell banks and credit card companies to go take a hike from Bank on Yourself. What if you could bypass banks, finance, and credit card companies altogether? Become your own source of financing and get access to money when you want it for whatever you want by answering just one question: how much do you want? It's easier to do than you might think. To show you how it works, let's look at the ways we buy big-ticket items like a car. We finance it, we lease it, or we pay cash for it. If you finance a car, what do you have to show for your money after your loan is paid off? Only an old car. If you lease the car, what do you have to show for it when the lease is up? Even less. You have nothing to show for the money you spent. Some people figure they can beat the financing and leasing rackets by paying cash for the car. But get this, if you save up for your car in a savings account, when you pull your money out to pay cash, how much are you now earning on that money? Nothing. And you'll only start earning interest slowly as you put the money back in your savings account. The reality is you finance everything you buy because you either pay interest when you finance or lease things, or you lose interest and investment income you could have had if you'd kept the money invested instead. So what's the solution? Well, there's a fourth way to buy things, and bank and credit card companies are desperately hoping you never hear about it. This little-known method lets you bank on yourself and bypass lending institutions altogether. When you save your money in a Bank on Yourself plan, you can borrow it to pay cash for a car or anything else you might want, and the money in your plan will continue growing as though you never touched a dime of it. So what's a Bank on Yourself plan? Well, it's a specially designed type of dividend-paying whole life insurance policy. Not the kind of policy financial entertainers like Susie Orman and Dave Ramsey talk about. No, most of your premium goes into a rider that supercharges the growth of your equity, your cash value, in the policy. The plan reduces the commission the advisor receives by a whopping 50 to 70%. And you'll have up to 40 times more cash value, especially in the early years, than with a traditional whole life policy. And you'll be able to use it as a powerful financial management tool right from the start. Want to find out how much bigger your nest egg could grow when you use the Bank on Yourself method to make major purchases? Just request a free, no-obligation analysis at bankonyourself.com and click the Request Your Analysis button. So who has used the Bank on Yourself method creatively and successfully? Think Disneyland. Walt Disney borrowed from his life insurance policy in 1953 to build Disneyland when no banker would lend him a dime. Then there's J.C. Penney. John Penny borrowed from his life insurance policy to meet the company payroll following the 1929 stock market crash. And these are just two examples out of many. In fact, hundreds of thousands of Americans of all ages and incomes use the Bank on Yourself method. You can see some of their stories at bankonyourself.com/reviews. Let's compare a bank loan with a Bank on Yourself policy loan. If you want a loan from the bank, you're going to have to fill out a credit application. They're going to run a credit check, and you've got to qualify, or you don't get the loan. But with Bank on Yourself, there's no qualifying, and you can't be turned down. A bank may limit your loan amount, but with Bank on Yourself, you can borrow up to 85 to 90% of your cash value. A bank may charge you higher interest because of your credit rating, but with Bank on Yourself, you get competitive interest rates regardless of your credit rating. When you borrow from a bank, who sets your repayment terms? The bank. With Bank on Yourself, it's your money. You set your own repayment terms. What happens if you miss a payment on a bank loan? Well, there goes your credit score. Maybe collection calls, maybe repossession, maybe foreclosure. But with a Bank on Yourself loan, you can reduce or skip some payments if you hit a rough spot financially and not have to worry about those things. Finally, when you pass away, all your bank loans must be settled by your estate. But with Bank on Yourself, unpaid loans are simply deducted from the death benefit, which, by the way, increases exponentially as your policy matures. And the best part is, your policy can double as a retirement plan you can predict and count on, providing you guaranteed growth and an income in retirement that can last as long as you do, with little or no taxes due under current tax law. In short, the typical family could potentially increase their lifetime wealth by hundreds of thousands of dollars simply by financing their cars and vacations through a Bank on Yourself policy, without taking on the risks of stocks, real estate, and other volatile investments. Want to find out how much bigger your nest egg could grow if you add the Bank on Yourself method to your financial plan? Request a free, no-obligation analysis and find out. You'll also receive a referral to one of only 200 advisors in the country who have met the rigorous requirements to be a Bank on Yourself authorized advisor. They'll structure your policy properly so the growth is maximized. They'll recommend one of the handful of life insurance companies that offers policies that have all the features needed to take full advantage of the power of this concept, including the feature that lets you use the money in your policy while your policy continues growing as though you'd never touched a dime of it. Request your free, no-obligation analysis today at bankonyourself.com. Just click the Request Your Analysis button. That's bankonyourself.com and click the button.
It was just a short little kind of explanation. There's many benefits that a policy can do. There's all kinds of different types of policies. There's good ones and bad ones. The type of policies that you can get that are tied to the equity index funds, which has performed very well. And I've got an example that I had one of my friends just in the business send up to me so you could see what a S&P 500 index looked like, excuse me, inside the policy and how it's grown. So, but the biggest benefits to the policies is they're tax-free. I've had a lot of people I know that's borrowed. My uncle borrowed out of his policy. He needed hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep his company afloat and got it out tax-free. Paid the loan back, just like it talks about, as you use it as a financing vehicle. Because when you pay to back to the on a car loan or a personal loan, those things aren't deductible at all, so you're paying interest. This way here, and internally, the way the policies are designed inside, it charges the interest but credits back the interest on the loans. So you're basically paying yourself back, and you're making money while the money's still out there. So it's a unique way to do it. You can structure a lot of different ways for college funding. Instead of 529 plans, different things for college, people will use insurance because what if the kids never go to college? You get the money out, it's all tax consequences. This way you can access it anytime tax-free. And then if something happens prematurely, you can't complete the program because something happens, you pass away, the money's there to make sure the kids are taken care of. So it gives you all the benefits, and I can go on, but there's a lot of different things. But that was one of them Tony talked about in the book, because he was pretty much against insurance, just like many people are. But he says there's good and bad, and he says once he was educated, he had a change of attitude about what you can do with them. So, but a couple of things I want to touch on here is taxes. Taxes are one of the things that just absolutely kill us on our retirement programs and fees. It's a huge amount. So, kind of give you an example here. This is from David Swenson. He's the Yale's guy that runs all their money at Yale, and he grew it from like, I think it was 1 billion to, I can't remember how many billions he did in just a short time. But anyways, he talks a little bit about asset allocation, diversification, and tax efficiency. You know, tax efficiency is one of the simplest ways to increase your returns on your portfolio. It will give you faster financial freedom because of the compounding that happens with it. So, you know, but let's pick your taxes, the type of taxes that you can pay. Typically, you have ordinary income, and some people can approach as much as 50% between federal and state. You've got your long-term capital gains, which has a 20%, so if you hold an investment for more than 12 months in a day, it's considered long-term capital gains, so it's only at 20% tax bracket. And then, of course, your short-term is taxed just like ordinary income right now, so you want to try to hold those things for more than a year. Kind of show you the difference here, what it does for tax bite. And now we have the power of compounding here. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. You can bring up pot of gold. think was the next one. I want to talk a little bit about compounding, and some of you have seen this before, and I added a few other things just to kind of do a recap, but our money is really nothing more than enough money in our account to replace our income and have a lifetime income and leave what we have left over to the children. So, next. Albert Einstein said the eighth one of the world should be compound interest. Remember, everyone's probably seen this before, how often it takes to double your money. But one of the things that Tony taught about in the book here, and I've never thought about it before, but you know, Albert Einstein, like I said, eighth one of the world should be compound interest. But one of the people that commented said, no, he's lying. It's not true. Or at least it's a half a truth. The greatest one in the world should be compound interest without taxes. And you're going to see that the difference here with taxes, what it does for you. So continue on. Wish I just kind of just told you that. It was wrong. It's without taxes. So an insurance will allow you to let it compound. You can withdraw the money tax-free. It passes tax-free to your children. It can be estate tax-free if it's set up properly. So it gives you all kinds of benefits that you can utilize. Money that you'll never be able to outlive at all. So next. This here is another one to kind of show what the rate of return, how long it takes to double, some of the different rates. Today, what are people making in their savings account in the bank? If you lock it up for, what, 5 years, you might get 1%. How are you ever going to get ahead that way? CDs and everything. You're not going to take you 72 years to double it. So that's the difference in rates. But then you take taxes away from the little bit you got, it's even less. Continue on. Now this here shows you, like we've talked about earlier, getting started with people early putting away for retirement. How many people could put away $5 a day? A lot of people sit down and talk to, and Tony talks about it in the book here too, and just like all the other books we reviewed, no one's doing anything for retirement. They say, I can't afford it. It's not a priority is the problem. Even if you did a little $5 a day, you can see what that would grow to. How much is that in 30 years, Dee Dee? 339. That's kind of small. I apologize for that. You can't really see it too good. So 150 bucks a month, 50 years is 2.5 million. You did 10 bucks a day, 40 years you got 1.8 million. So a small amount of money turns in over time to a lot. Tony talked about it in his book here, was interesting. He said he had a guy that he interviewed, and he only ever made $14,000 a year, no more than that. And when he died, he had $70 million. All he did is take 20% of every check and put it away and let it compound over the years. Hard to even fathom that, isn't it? So people say, I don't have any money. Again, that's our spending habits. We have to readjust those things. Continue on. And this here's another example. Some have seen this before too. You know, a young person, like let's take Mike or any of the young kids, 22, putting away $4,000 a year, and he did it for how many years? 6 years only. Never put another penny in. And how much was that worth at age 62? $957,000. It's again a little bit small. However, his brother waited to do it for 10 years because he was too busy having fun and spending money on other things. He only paid $24,000, the first guy, but Mike's brother had to pay $120 grand, so he had to pay $4,000 all the way till he was 62 to have $183,000. Again, because that's a compound in what you lost with just 10 years. It's absolutely huge. So next slide. Here's kind of the contribution phases. Let me ask everyone, would you rather pay taxes on, let's assume you're a farmer for a second. Would you rather pay taxes on your seed that you're going to plant in the ground or pay taxes on the field that harvests a whole bunch? Absolutely. Problem is everyone is not paying taxes on the seed money and the dollars, so when they retire, they're paying all the tax on the harvest. It's huge. And I'm going to show you by taxes alone what it's going to do. So just keep that in mind. Continue. This here kind of gives a little quick example of someone pulling money out of their IRA, 401k, 403b they have to show you the tax consequences of it. So If they're gonna put $6,000 a year into their IRA for 35 years, they put 210 grand into retirement, okay? Let's assume they're in a 33% tax bracket. That $6,000 at 33% bracket will save you $2 grand in taxes now. And over 35 years, that's 70 grand that you saved in paying Uncle Sam right now. However, if you take a look at that $6,000 a year and it grows at 7.5% for 35 years, it's worth $1 million. That $1 million, and if you continue getting 7.5%, will net you $75,000 a year income, right? If you're in the same tax bracket, let me ask you, who thinks taxes are going to be the same or going to go up? Going to go up. But let's assume it's the same. So you got $25,000 a year in taxes you're going to pay. So your net results is $50,000 after tax. What's interesting though, in just 3 years of retirement, every dollar of taxes you saved during those 35 years is already paid back to Uncle Sam. Think of it this way. Uncle Sam is your partner in your retirement plan. Tony talked about here. I never really thought about that before. He's actually your partner with you. If you have $1 million, because he asked a guy he interviewed, one of the guys that made a lot of money, he says, well, I could get by once I have $1 million in there. I'll be fine between my other income and pension and Social Security. I'll be fine. He says, well, can you get by then on $1 million of $75,000 a year? He says, yeah. He says, could you get by on $35,000? No, it wouldn't work. Thank you. You're in partners with Uncle Sam, and that's what he's going to get out of it. People don't think about those things. Again, the taxes, we think up front what we can do, but the end result. So continue on. So basically we have, again, like I talked about with the farmer, you got two pots of money, your IRA, 401k, your qualified plans, and then you've got your Roth IRA, your equity index, universal life, whole life, different things that's tax-free. How many people in your 401k, how many have a Roth IRA with your 401k that the employer offers? Are you utilizing that? Good. Everyone should be, because if you take a look at that example that we did, if your employer's matching you money, you're foolish not to do a 401k because it's free money. So let's assume you're putting away, just pick a number out, $10,000 for the year. Your employer says, I'll match you up dollar for dollar up to $4,000. That's a 50% return, isn't it, on your money right away in that $4 grand, even before you made a gain. Plus you got to save, because now the other $6,000 that he's not matching in your 401k, what should you do with that money? Move it to your Roth IRA, tax-free. So think of it, you had $1 million taxable, or would you want $1 million tax-free? The Roth IRA is tax-free when you pull it out. The 401k is going to be taxed just like that example. So there's ways to do it that you maximize your tax deductions, but maximize your retirement income, because when you're old and retired, you don't want to be working anymore. But you know how many people are going to be working? A lot of people, because they're not doing anything for retirement. Tony talks about in the book how few people are putting anything away. Right now, the average household, I think they said it was around 60%, only have less than $2,000 for an emergency fund. Sad. What would happen? Continue on. Now I'm going to talk about fees. Taxes are one thing that will devastate you, but I'm going to show you what fees can do. Mutual funds, your 401ks are loaded with fees. Sunday I'm going to talk about, I'm going to give everyone a website to go to. It's called the Best 401k. Tony talked about in the book. I didn't even know this was even available. You can put in the company's tax ID number, and it will download your information from your 401k in there and tell you exactly what you're paying for fees and what the real return is. 401ks have the most hidden fees and mutual funds out there. There's like 17 different types of taxes, fees I'm going to talk about a little bit more on Sunday. But let's add them up for a second here. A non-taxable account, your normal mutual fund, has a 0.90 expense fee. Your transaction costs are about 1.44. That one got moved over there, but cash drag is about 0.83. Cash drag, I didn't even know, I've never even heard of that term before I read the book. That's where they have to have so much money in reserves to cover the mutual funds, so they charge a fee to do that, in case you want to get money out. Total cost then is 3.17%. That's what the average, and this is from Forbes magazine, that's the real cost of owning a mutual fund. You'd be surprised. Even Tony said, I had no idea how much the costs were. Anybody I've ever asked, they have any idea what their fees are. You're talking millions of dollars you're giving up. Now let's take a look at taxable account. Again, 0.9 expense fee, transaction 1.44, cash drag. Tax cost is about another 1% because it's not in a tax favored vehicle. So your total cost could be up to 4.17%. It doesn't sound like a lot, does it? 1% here, 1% there, would you say? I mean, what's the big deal, right? Go to the next screen. Here's an actual mutual fund, Culvert Equity Portfolio. Had $50,000 initial investment. Some of this is a little blurry, I apologize, because I'm not a spreadsheet or a guru person. I have no one help me, so I had to piecemeal it together. The gross return on the mutual fund is 7.11% in that mutual fund. 1.23 expense ratio fee, and then 1.23 trading costs, and that netted 4.65 after the fees. So it's not bad, is it? But let's break down how that works. So the true fees is on that expense ratio is $615. So that 7.11% that you made on your $50,000 netted you $3,555. Okay? 615 there, and then another 615 on the trading costs, and then your net return was 2,300. So what's your real cost of that mutual fund with the fees? Huge. So does 1%, 2% matter? Big time. Let me give you a little quote here. This is from Warren Buffett. I'm going to sidestep and just hold that for a second there, guys, all right? Give you a little bit of education what he says here. Even Warren Buffett, known as the incredibly unique ability to find undervalued stocks that average investors should never attempt to pick stocks or time the market. In his famous 2014 letter to his shareholders, he explained that when he passed away, the money in a trust for his wife should be invested only in indexes so that she can maximize her costs and maximize her upside. The facts here. From 1984 to 1998, a full 15 years, only 8 out of the 200 fund managers beat Vanguard's 500 index fund. Vanguard 500 put together by founder Jack Bogle in a mirror to image the S&P 500 index. Less than 4% of the odds that you'd be a winner trying to do it on your own. Fees are huge. Vanguard has some of the lowest cost fees when you talk about mutual funds, but there's some other things that you need to know too. Warren Buffett, also one of the most successful investors of the 20th century. Buffett recommends S&P 500 index funds to such a degree that he made $1 million bet with Prozet's top 5 hedge fund managers not to outperform the S&P 500 index fund in the next 10 years, and he's already 6 years into it, and he's going to win. You're not going to beat it, what it encompasses. Go to the next slide a second now. This here is the impact of funds over 10 years. $1 million invested, 8% annualized return over 30 years. If you had to pay a 3% fee, it would grow to $4.3 million. If you only had to pay a 2% fee, 5.7, and it's 1% fee is 7 point, what is that? 6 million. Does a point or two matter? You know how many people are paying it? They don't even have a clue. The brokers and people are selling them, they're selling them outlandish fees. The study that was done, the average mutual fund underperforms tremendously, but overcosts fees to people all the time. So, let me see if I can find that. I wanted to give that to you. There's over 7,700 different mutual funds in the United States, but only 4,900 individual stocks, all varying for a chance to help try to help beat the market. But the statistics show that is worth repeating. 96% will fail to match or beat the market over the extended period. That's huge. So instead of buying all the stocks individually, you're trying to pick the next high flyer, you can diversify and own a piece of all the top 500 stocks simply by investing in a low-cost index fund that tracks and mimics the S&P 500. I know Vanguard is like a 0.2%. In the investment world, they call it basis points. So it's 0.2 basis. So there's 100 basis points in 1%. So theirs is like anywhere from 0.2. So 20 basis points instead of having to pay 2.5%, 3%, which is the standard in the mutual fund and all the costs, or the 401k. So you can see where all those monies are being eaten up. So the people's 401ks that they have that Tony talked about, and I'll talk on Sunday, give you their website to go to. You can actually put in and check your real return. Don't believe what the broker's telling you. Most of them lie. Oh, don't worry, we'll take care of you. Everything is good. When you find out the real return, what it's costing you, you'll be absolutely amazed. It's your family's success and retirement. The difference, go and pull up that slide again, you guys. What would be the difference between 4.3 million and 7.6? $3 million, would that enhance your lifestyle to do things more that you want to do? But also, like the word says, is we want to leave an inheritance to our children's children. Or do you want to leave it to the brokers and the market and the Wall Street guys? Just because we're being destroyed for lack of knowledge. Everywhere around you see this going on. You work hard for your money, and you want to make sure it is working to the best you can. Taxes are huge. Fees are huge. So, it's best 401k.com, I think, is what it was. I'm gonna cover it on Sunday. I'm gonna have to type it all up to different websites and some stuff. I was working through the night and I just didn't get it all done that I wanted to do. But like here I pulled up this one here. Here's an index fund. Charles Schwab interviewed some of the people. I know Keisha, you like J.P. Morgan, right, Chase? One of the people here they talked about. These are just a few of them they did. John Bogo's the 85-year-old that started the Vanguard Fund. Ray Dalio, if I'm pronouncing it right, he's the largest fund hedge manager on the planet. He manages $160 billion. He sat down with him, and he gave him his secret to Tony, and it's in the book here, what to do. David Swenson, one of the greatest institutional investors of all time. This is the guy at Yale that runs the Yale's endowment. He took $1 billion to more than $23.9 billion in less than 2 decades. Kyle Bass and Manu turned $30 million in investments into $2 billion in just 2 years. Carl Icahn outperformed Warren Buffett, the market, and virtually everyone else in the last 5 and 10-year cycles. Mary Callahan Evrose, I think is how you pronounce it, who's considered to be the most powerful woman in finance. She oversees more than $2.5 trillion as CEO of J.P. Morgan Asset Management. He interviewed her. Charles Schwab interviewed on going on. He took the top 50 in the world. And if anybody knows Tony Robinson, how electrifying the guy is, and he got all these secrets, and he said he wrote a book so that he could share the wealth with everyone else. So he wants people to learn, because we're being destroyed with our finances by not knowing these things. So, but there's all kinds of, and he even worked up a deal with Hightower down in Chicago. I already Googled them or pulled them up. Him and then one of their registered investment advisors. I'll give you another example. Many years ago, I was a registered investment advisor. This is the difference, your taxes. So when you're paying someone fees to manage your portfolio, your stockbroker, your person custodian mutual funds, is that a tax write-off for you? No, of course not. Guess what? A registered investment advisor can be. You can deduct the fee charges you, quite possibly, depending on your return. So if you're paying a registered investment advisor, which he's a fiduciary, so he's held to a much higher standard, let's say he charges 1% fee, you can write that off, so that increases your yield there possibly. And on top of that, they use all no-load mutual funds, low-cost stuff, index funds. So you're paying that 0.2 ratio, because he has a fiduciary. He's forbidden under the law to take any money or kickbacks on like a lot of mutual funds do, and the brokers and different things that goes on out there. So he's totally biased. But there's more of that. I mean, there's just so many things in the book. You go on and on. So go to the next thing then. Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about in fees. This isn't as big as a number, so more people can maybe relate to it. Here's 3 people who invested $100,000 for 30 years. Lump sum dump in each of the 3 brothers. or two brothers and one girl, I should say. They had a 7% growth with different annual fees. So every one of them made 7% on their money, but they paid different fees on their money. So if you take a look here, Jason's 100,000 at 7% with his 3% annual fees in 30 years is worth 324 grand. Matthew, paying only 2%, this is worth 432,000. And Taylor, her account, she only paid 1%. She had 574,000. Taylor has twice as much money, same exact return. That's what does 1% matter, Keisha? It does, 1 or 2%. So that's the difference with a registered investment advisor. People can handle money and do things, but not everyone's going to be able to do that. So Tony says, you know, the average person that wants to put $100 a month away tells you in here where to do it. Use the low-cost indexes. The insurance policies also have great returns on them that you can make. For the average person, it's a small amount of money. So whether you have a lot of money or little money, it works for everyone. So continue on. I think that's probably the end there, isn't it? Yep, and then bring up the next one I had written down now. Kind of zoom in now. This here, I had a friend of mine send this up. I wanted to show you. Insurance companies use many different indexes, but one of them that works, they did an equity index life insurance policy just to kind of show you the return. Go down and zoom down. This is on a 32-year-old gal. Slide on over to the right a little bit. This is S&P point-to-point index. And again, I apologize, the numbers are small, but I'll kind of read them to you. The growth up here shows that they made 21.31% inside that insurance policy, an equity index fund. And that's what Vanguard says, and all of them through the book says, if you're going to do it, use a low-cost fund, okay? The index cap is 14.5%. What does that mean? Anybody have any idea what that is? That means that's the cap the insurance company will pay you. So even if they made 21% for the return on the money, they're going to cap you at paying you 14.5%. Okay? So, and the index participation rate's 100%, so they credited 14.5% to your policy. Is that a good return? Tax-free? Huge return. Versus you take a look at the average mutual fund, it's only returned 3-4% after fees and taxes. You got to remember that. Now you go all the way down here, every single month there you can see 17, 17, 14, 14, 15, 16, and 10. One of Steve's customers says he got a call from them and she thanked him left and right because she got a 0% return. See, this is where the insurance works. If someone, let's say Pat, your age, you don't know all these things that you want to do, you just want to have safety and security. I know that's what you're concerned with, right? And you want to make sure your money's going to be there. What an insurance company will give you, remember how the market's dropped, how many hundreds of points and zig up and down? If they lose money, they guarantee you still 0. You lose no money. You only make money in the upside, but you don't lose money when it goes down. So if the insurance company lost money in that particular year in the S&P index, they credit you 0%, but you didn't lose all your gains. How many would like that? And it's tax-free. That's the safety of what an insurance company can do with the policies. So that's why I wanted to kind of show this. So the lady, you know, people are losing 30, 40, 50% of their money, but the market just went crazy. This lady got her statement. She thanked him. I got 0. She said, I'm so glad I put that money in there because I would have lost in all that money. And the market's not done correcting yet either. I think it's going to go down lower, don't you? A lot of volatility. No one knows for sure. But when you're getting close to retirement or retirement age, you don't want to lose your money, do you, Pat? You want to make sure it's there, but it's also tax-free. Now, slide over, back up on top a second, if you would. So this gal right here, go up a little higher. She's 32 years old, okay? Her insurance policy is how much? $625,000. What she's putting into her policy. So she checked out prematurely and got killed in an accident. we would deposit, or they would deposit $625,000 income tax free into the kid's account. That will take care of college, anything else that's done. Or you can put it into an IRA, and what do you get if you die? Whatever's in the IRA minus your taxes is due. So that's the benefit. So it should be a foundational product in your portfolio. And if you don't have a lot of money, that's what you should start with, because it takes care of all those unforeseen things. You can use it for education down the road for kids, retirement funds, whatever it is tax-free. You can borrow it out tax-free, pay it back, or you don't even have to pay it back in some cases. But it's money that you have when you need it. So, all right, continue down, I think, to the third one. Keep going. It's going to be kind of hard to see this too, but we're going to try. This is Midland National Life. Keep going. Okay, right here. This here is the annual point to point. If you see the top one up there, the 5-year return's been 11.3, 10 years been 8.6, 20-year 8.9, 25-year 8.6, 30-year 9%. Would anybody not be happy with that return tax-free without any risk? Not at all. When you're taking a look at having money in the bank account or CDs, you're making nothing on your money. Sitting with the insurance company is safe and guaranteed, and if you need money, you can get at it and take it back out, just like you're financing a car or education. I know you probably don't remember, I could have brought it here, but it shows people putting money in and then pulling out college fund money tax-free, letting it grow again for retirement. I mean, there's just so many benefits and perks of what you can do with it, so. Okay, that's it for that. You can shut that down, and then, but anyways, that was with the insurance. You can go to bankonyourself.com. There's a gazillion things in there that talks about it, different insurance aspects of it. If you guys have questions, I can kind of talk with you a little bit later. But here's an example one. I don't have this up here. I'll just explain it to you. This is a 35-year-old male going to put $25,000 a year in. They want to fund different things, so they do it for just 10 years. And at the end of that time, he wants it in 20 years, he wanted to retire, or 10 years, excuse me, and he starts pulling $75,000 a year out in income tax-free. So when he's year 40, he put in 600 grand he paid in total, and he pulled out $1.1 million tax-free, and there's still $1.1 million in the account. Go out here 60 years when the guy's 95, he's pulled out $2.6 million. Never paid a penny of taxes, and he's still got $1.6 million left for the kids. All the way out to age 100, pulled out $3 million, and the death benefit's still $1.9 million to go to the kids with $1.8 million cash. That's leaving a legacy for the generation and the next generation. So there's all kinds of things that you can do, but the whole point is in the book, it really talks about taxes and fees is robbing you of millions of dollars that you should have of additional money. The same thing with at your work. So we'll talk more about that. But I got a little trivia for you now. A riddle. Pull up that next one. Okay. Now you guys are going to get an insight to this because when you come back Sunday, we're going to see who answers the question right, because there's going to be a little cash prize. So you're going to have to do some math on this one now. No, you haven't. This one's different. Okay, just for that, I'm going to put you in the spot now. If you double that dollar every single year, go ahead and pull it up. In 20 years, you got $1 million. $1 every year, and you've doubled that for 20 years. That's hard to believe, isn't it? It just takes a small amount of money, just like the guy that made $14,000 a year, never had any more than that, and had $70 million when he died, because of compounding of money. It's huge. But now this is where the test comes in. Slide down a little bit more. Okay. But if you had to pay capital gains, alternative minimum, or even ordinary state and federal income taxes on it in 20 years later, what would the investment be worth? That's going to be your homework assignment, Pat. Math. So slide down a little bit more. So if it doubles every year for the 20 years, I even gave you right here. Just leave it there. I even gave you one I want you to figure out. Now, if you're paying 0% tax, how much would you have in 20 years, Dee Dee? There you go. See, I gave you the easy question tonight. You still have the $1,048,000, right? However, if you had to pay 20% capital gains or 40% between federal and state, how much would you have in 20 years? Every year you pay the capital gains because you pay it once a year. Okay? I want everyone to write down, not tonight, but come back. When you come back on Sunday, you're going to have a heads up because no one else is going to be there even know about it yet, unless they're watching online. I want to see whoever can guess that. Judy, you're in here. You still cleaning houses, right? You're not anymore? Okay. I was going to say, whoever guessed it right, Judy would clean your house for her. We'd pay for it. and we would pay you for it. That's what, I'm giving a little incentive. Dee Dee said I couldn't use her money because she was going to do something to me, so I'll have to go to Judy. So if anyone can get the answer correct on those two questions, we already know the 0%, that's a dead giveaway. You have your same money. But you're going to be blown away by the other two. So when you come back Sunday, I want you to have B and C answers for me. Just figure the end of the year, what the tax would be at the end of the year for the long-term capital gains. It's actually a year and a day is what it actually is. But just do the gross, the whole amount, because it's going to be taxed on that whole amount. Yeah, it's not. Right. Well, it's going to be your gross return what you made. So what you made that year is going to be taxed. So capital gains. Because you're going to just figure just capital gains, because that's where you see, like, remember Romney, how they beat up on Romney, how he made all this money and he didn't pay no taxes? That's because it was capital gains versus ordinary income, because ordinary income is taxed at whatever rate you're at. But short-term capital gains, if you don't hold that investment 12 months, is taxed at the same tax rate your ordinary income is. So you always want to hold long-term a year and a day so you get a lower bracket. So that's why how you can maximize your taxes by watching what you're doing with them too. So, all right. How many people really know what an index fund is? Okay, we'll talk about it. Yep, what it is, it's give you an explanation. I mean, you can pull it up too. Instead of hiring a fund manager to actively select what stocks and bonds the fund will hold, the index fund buys all or respective sample of securities in the S&P 500. So you might have 500 different funds or stocks that it's made up of in that fund. So index funds, the big advantage is tax efficiency of them. There's lower costs. So it gives you a much better breakdown. So if you take a look, like Vanguard index funds, on average cost 82% less than all the other ones. Vanguard actually started index funds many years ago, so they're the largest, and they do a fantastic job. Charles Schwab is good too. And Charles Schwab here's what I printed off on them. They'll let you start with a little $100 a month to open an account. So, I mean, there's no reason a person can't do it and diversify in that portfolio. So, what was the other thing I wanted to go over? We kind of explain a couple more things in summary here for you. You know, there's lots of ways to structure the insurance policy, but it's the only financial vehicle on the planet that gives you the following: 100% guarantees of your deposit. Now, when you take a look at the market, you take a look at banks and CDs, they're supposed to have 3 cents of every dollar. Remember FDIC insurance that you always see at the bank? They require by law to hold 3 cents of every dollar. They don't have nowhere even near that to cover any losses that would happen. This is the other thing, the upside without downside of your account value when it's tied to the market. Like I said, on the way up, as you're making that 17 or 15%, they lock in those rates at the end of the year with the point to point. If the market all of a sudden drops and they lose 10%, you still get 0%. You don't go on the downside. So those advantages that you have, that's huge with doing it. Tax deferral and growth of your money. You know, remember the dollar average in, you know, the tax example I gave you? Again, you know, it's a huge difference when you compound out the taxes, which I'll show you on Sunday. I don't want to give the number away because you can have a little fun Sunday, but that's why you need to bring those things, you know, we talked about, so no problem. And in addition to that, you know, things have changed so much in the industry, and a lot of people, they wonder why financial literacy is so bad. They don't teach anything to anybody today. I mean, schools don't. Let me just read this out of the book because I thought this was excellent. The New Age. We are without a doubt in uncharted waters. In the past 30 years, the concept of retirement has transferred radically. Heck, even as recently as the 80s, over 62% of workers had a pension plan. Anybody have a pension here? Unless you work for the military or, you know, government, most people don't have pension plans anymore. There's some hybrid of it. Today, unless you work for the government, the pension is a relic. It's a financial dinosaur. Now, for better or worse, you're the captain of your own ship. You are ultimately responsible for whether or not your money will last. That's quite a burden to bear. Throw in the market volatility, excess fees we just talked about, inflation, and medical surprises, and you quickly start to understand why we're facing such a massive retirement crisis. Many people, including our neighbors and colleagues, are going to face a real likelihood of outliving their money, especially with the prospect of living much longer. Fastest egg segment today is 100 plus growing. People are living longer, and their money's gone. So is 80 really the new 50? Today, the average life expectancy in male is 79, where female is 81. For a married couple, at least one spouse has a 25% chance of reaching age 25. So, and this is what's sad. Of course, as we live our lives, the average American pays more than half of his or her income to an assortment of taxes: income tax, property tax, sales tax, tax at the pump, and so on. So right now we're paying about 54.25 cents to good old Uncle Sam. It's huge. So we're going to show you how to eliminate a lot of that, to put that money back in your pocket between the funds that you're paying, the taxes, and utilizing those things. So, I mean, this is just, I can't speak enough. I'm telling you, everyone should buy this book because this thing is loaded with so much. It is the best book I've ever seen. All kinds of people on Wall Street recommend it. So, I mean, I just can't say enough good things about it. I mean, there's so much in there. I could spend weeks and weeks going over all the stuff, but I'm not going to do that, obviously. So, but there's so much information in there. So, any questions from anyone, or why don't we go ahead and close in prayer then? Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for revelation, knowledge, and the wisdom that you're going to give us in these areas that we're learning about, Father. We ask you just to bless each and every one here, that they will multiply in the wisdom and knowledge and how to handle their financial affairs. And we thank you in Jesus' precious name. Amen. I do have one of these for everyone, though. Should have enough of those.
Seems like all I could see was the struggle, haunted by ghosts that lived in my past, bound up in shackles of all my failures, wondering how long is this gonna last. prisoner and say to me, son,